Welcome back to Little Steps Live. It's another virtual Facebook Live video today. I'm Natasha, and we'll be discussing a very interesting topic called sibling rivalry, which I hope will come very useful to a lot of people today. Just a few friendly reminders, however. We do go live every 2 weeks, so if you would like to see what's upcoming with our events, please go onto our Facebook page. Click on the events page, event section, and you'll get a friendly reminder sent to your phone. And then second, we have a weekly newsletter, which is sent across all our regions in Hong Kong, Singapore to Kuala Lumpur. If you would like to sign up for these newsletters, there's a link in the description page. And then lastly, we are live today. So please do send us questions, send us some love, send some questions to Marie today. We'll be happy to answer those for you. So as a really quick introduction, what do we mean by sibling rivalry? What does that mean? It is competition, fighting, and jealousy between brothers and sisters. I'm sure a lot of us are seeing that in the last couple of weeks with having everybody at home. Tension often begins very soon after the first child needs to welcome their new sibling. We see this a lot of the time. So sibling rivalry usually continues throughout childhood and can be very frustrating and stressful to parents. So fortunately, however, there are a lot of things that we can actually do to help our children get along better and work through these conflicts in positive ways. So Little Steps is very happy to welcome Marie Marchand. Hello, Marie.
Hi.
Marie.
Hi.
Hello. Marie is a mother of 3. She's actually the principal at City Kids Preschool Hong Kong, and she's also the founder of Parenting Dialogue. Today, with Marie's help, we will discuss the advantages of having siblings. Yes, there are advantages. What factors often create tension between siblings and how to solve them. Now, more than ever, as I said, we need good vibes at home. We're stuck at home with our loved ones for the unforeseeable future. So I hope this interview comes in very handy for those parents suffering at home. And I hope Marie can shed some light on how to make it into a positive situation for us. So Marie, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, please?
Yes, I'm a Canadian mother of 3 children that are now young adults. And we got the children quite close in age. We adopted 2 children in Hong Kong and had a biological son. So everything was kind of like boom, boom, boom. So suddenly we had 3 children, 4 and under, and working full time, both my husband and I. And I thought, wow, this is, being a parent doesn't come so easily. And nobody has a university degree for it. So I kind of put my head down and studied quite a lot. And I studied a course on parenting. And then I founded Parenting Dialogue maybe 22 years ago now, when my kids were like 5, 4, and 3. I'm an early years teacher for all my profession. And now I'm very lucky to be a principal of a wonderful little preschool in the mid-levels. It's a nonprofit organization called City Kids.
Yes, we love City Kids. My son, as you know, Josh, was at your school for a few years and helped us out quite a lot. Myself got 3 kids under 6, and you really helped me. Thank you. So as with my kids, did your children fight a lot, or was that a silly question? You've got 3 kids, they must fight, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like normal, they were close in age. So, there was probably not so much rivalry as babies, in terms of nobody really pinched other people's time because they kind of all arrived at the same time. But over the years, normal arguments and fightings over toys, taking turns, cooperating, that kind of thing.
Right. But now I think you've got an amazing relationship with them, right? And how is their relationship between themselves?
So now they're 27, 25, and 24.
Wow.
And with this coronavirus, life brings you challenges. And we have the 2 eldest are back at home with us. And it's actually, and then one is in Toronto. And it's really interesting to see how lovely they are to each other, really. And how I think they find that family is really important and keeping good relationship is really important. They discovered that over the years, I believe, in being mischievous together, We also had people to hang out with, and also, the good things about having siblings is you always have buddies to play with. And so when you're young, that's, create some arguments sometimes, but it's always good. You're never alone. So I think these are, a lot of good stuff coming out today when we have discussions.
Okay. I hope to see that when mine turn in their 20s, but let's see. Today we're going to split today's conversation into 3 areas of focus. We're going to look at the advantages of having siblings, factors that create tension between siblings, and how to solve conflicts. So, which are 3 really, really key topics here. So let's start off with the advantages of having siblings. So in your opinion, what would you say are the top advantages of having siblings?
Okay, the top ones I would say, when they're young, learn how to share time and things. Learn how to cooperate, and realize that when you do things as a group, then it's faster, and then you might get to the next step or next activity quicker. I think over the years, definitely learn to negotiate, learn to talk about things, dialogue, because there is more people to practice with. One of the main one, I would say, learn to resolve conflict resolution. At the beginning when they're little, you kind of teach them a little bit, and then you let them be, and then eventually, they learn how to do it. In today's world, I mean, you need to learn how to resolve conflicts. There's crisis all around you. And then learn how to love and have compassion.
Yeah.
If one of them goes through something, the other one does reach out, and you learn how to love.
Yes.
And also how to be friends with each other. And when you fight, how to reconcile if there is a reconciliation, how to take care of each other. And I think for us, I mean, I think we will be lucky, and I think it's going to happen, is that they've created a long time relationship. So it's going to last for a long time, forever. So I think there's a lot of advantages of having a sibling.
Okay. How do you explain those advantages to children, because they're so little? I mean, obviously it depends on their age group, but how do you say to someone, it's nice to have a sister because in the future you'll need to depend on them, or whatever reason? What do you actually say?
Well, again, it starts when they're young, right? It comes a bit naturally. You don't say, oh, you know what, today I'm going to teach you how nice it is to have a sibling. But throughout, this is our family. In our family, we are more than one child. We're 5 people, and we're learning to take turns. So we're going to practice at the dinner table, and how nice it is to, listen to each other's day, for example. You start with sharing toys and putting it and say, okay, in 5 minutes you need to share the computer or the TV or whatever is there. And then slowly you introduce other strategies that are, according to their level of understanding, like negotiation, like sitting down and brainstorming ideas to resolve conflicts when both people or both children. So, for example, 2 sons for us, our 2 younger sons, they shared a bedroom for 18 years. And so that created over the years a lot of fun, a lot of fantastic stories, but a lot of struggles and fights. He wants the light on, I want it off. I hate him because he's disturbing me. He's coming into my space, all that kind of thing. So throughout
Yeah.
these moments, then you teach them things, that how important it is that to get along, but also the good things. You're sharing a room, you're lucky, you're never alone. You can share your stories, you can play with your sibling, all that kind of thing. So I think through little things that happen, you start teaching them slowly.
Okay. So so what age do you think that they will start to understand? Because I'm not getting that at the moment. So when do you think that would be?
Yeah, I think understanding is throughout, but appreciating comes a little bit later. I asked my children as young adults, what are the advantages of having siblings when they were in their 20s, right? And then really, they kind of joked. They said, oh, Mom, I remember I would ask, my brother, how do I convince my parents to do that, so like mischief, and then how to help one convince the parents of doing something.
Right, right.
uh, and then they became friends through that, and playing the parents out. So that was a major advantage. But I think really, probably throughout the teenagers, when they have their back and they're starting to be a little bit more rebellious, and then somebody helps them out, or convincing or giving them tricks as well, or if they're too they don't want to open up to mom and dad about a particular topic, they would go see each other,
Right.
as well as their peers. But I think it happened for us in the late teenagers, but certainly young adults, they see all the benefits now.
Okay. So we will be splitting up today's chat into 3 areas of focus. The advantages of having siblings, which we've just covered. There are very good advantages there. Factors that create tension between siblings. That's what we'll look at now. And then how to solve these conflicts. So the factors that create tension between siblings. What causes the actual rivalry between the children? Why do they fight?
So there's a few factors. One of them can be the order of the child's birth. So sometimes the older one was told when they were little, right, you need to be a big girl now or a big boy, and because there's a baby or second or third child, and then they start feeling a bit resentful. They're only 3 or 4, and then now suddenly they have to be perfect, and that can create something. Sometimes the youngest gets more, or the parents are used to children by then, and it seems to be unfair that they're getting you know the easier time, and often
Right.
the middle child is stuck in the middle, looking up to the big sister or big brother, and then having the little baby there and is in the middle, a bit confused maybe, or frustrated, or think life is unfair. So that can be one. The other thing that could create is the gender. Like in our family, we have 1 girl and 2 boys, and it appears that the 2 boys had more rivalry between them. But then, is this fair to say that maybe our daughter, maybe she felt like a bit of an outsider because the gang of boys together, thank God we were 2 girls against the 3 boys, right? And so the gender could be one. The age, um, some people believe that if the age gap is bigger, it's going to be easier. Some people believe that if there's no big gap, then it's going to be
Yeah.
easier. In my experience, I can only talk about me. The fact that we had the children very close, I think, was helpful. They kind of all went through all the same stages at the same time, and they were able to go play soccer because they both were at that stage that they can kick the ball, for example. So I think there's advantages and disadvantages on the gap, depending on each family. The temperament of everyone, everybody's born with a temperament, and some children are more adaptable, some children are more sensitive. So if you have, a child that's not as sensitive and keeps teasing another one that's very sensitive, for example, that could create some siblings rivalry. And another big one is parenting. Parents that compare or that ignore the child's feeling, or parents that blame always the same child without looking into the situation. The language that they use, unfortunately, sometimes that can create siblings rivalry. And the connection also that you have with your children and that they have amongst themselves. So, as 3 children in my family or my own family, we have 5 girls. Maybe at one point or another, some of us felt that maybe one had a better connection with our parents for some reason, and then we were envious or maybe a bit jealous of that relationship. So the connection or the disconnection can also create some siblings rivalry. These would be the main factors that I think that I would consider.
Okay, so quite a lot of factors there. So how can I help? How can I help my kids? The golden question. Give me some
Yeah,
advice.
the golden. Yeah. Well, I think that there's a lot of strategies that you can do. One is hard, especially now in the coronavirus. I'm sure a lot of people are feeling like, oh, pulling their hair off. But it is proven that if you do connect with each child individually every day for, about 20 minutes on an activity of their choice. So we're not watching TV or connected on a computer, but, like reading a book or playing a game or go for a walk or, cooking a meal together, can reduce siblings rivalry. However, I mean, this thought for me with 3 kids, 20 minutes per day, working full time, I didn't have time. My husband and I didn't have time. So we kind of discussed that at one point, and we thought, okay, let's not put ourselves, set up ourselves for failure. We can't do 20 minutes individual per day. So let's do 20 minutes individual per week then, or per every 3 days. And then we share the load. And that seems to work for us. Another idea is to recognize each child's uniqueness and individuality. You are such a nice hugger, for example, or you can run so fast, or you really enjoy ballet, don't you? So instead of comparing, to avoid the comparison and say, oh, this is the artist of the family, or he's the smart one. Well, how come I can't be smart, or how come I can't be an artist? Or, or that kind of the comparison can be really avoided, and try to focus on each child uniqueness instead. And another thing to do is try to avoid, as I said, labels or judgmental comparison. So he's the smart one, he's the fast one, he's the soccer player, he's the champion, that kind of thing. Don't expect older children to be perfect. So I touched upon that a little bit. So I think that's really important, especially if people are having a baby now. So I have a lot of families in my school. They have a 3-4 years old and they're having babies. And it's important not to give too much not to give responsibilities to the older one. You're the big brother now. You should give your clothes. You're the big brothers. You should be nice and give a hug. You should do this as you're the big brother or big sister. They didn't ask for this baby, and most of them are probably wanting this baby to go away for a little bit anyway. So until it's dealt with properly. Another very good thing is to acknowledge the children's feeling. So if somebody, an older child, is asking for attention while a mom with a new baby is breastfeeding, for example, then you could say, oh, you look like you would like me to spend time with you. Let me just finish breastfeeding and I'll be with you in a minute. Why don't you go choose something to play with, organize it, and I'll be right with you. So that's, really, listening to your children. Or if two children are fighting over a Lego construction, for example, you could say, well, you feel frustrated, because, Sam or somebody destroyed it. Can we talk about it? Let's sit down, listen to what's happening and try to find out and help them resolve conflict. Another one that I think is really important, especially now in the coronavirus situation, if people have not done so, is to actually try to set up some rules that everybody has to follow. And you can do that through a little family meeting and say, guys, okay, it's a little bit harder now than normal. So we're going to make a poster, and we're going to set up some rules. So, for example, let's use our gentle hands, which means we're not allowed to hit each other, or let's use kind words. That means we're not allowed to name call somebody. And then let's share, let's say the computer, if you don't have enough IT tools for all the homework. And let's have a schedule, and let's review the schedule, and let's work together here. And you teach them words like cooperation and kindness. I think that's really important now. Instead of pulling your hair off, let's sit down and let's have a moment where we can kind of set along some getting along rules. And then I would say one very, very important thing is to focus on what the children are doing that is positive, not always catching them up doing something negative. So when you shared your toys with Sam, I could see that he was smiling. Well done. That was very kind. Or you're giving your baby sister a hug so gently. That is kind. I'm sure she's enjoying that, so for example, for a baby, or something like, oh, you guys sorted this issue all by yourself, give me 5, well done. So to focus on the positive so that you encourage that positive behavior to continue. And then lastly, I would say slowly teach the children to deal with conflict fairly, which means as a mom or a dad, not to blame always the same person. And in fact, almost remove yourself and don't take sides. Become a mediator. If somebody comes out crying of a bedroom,
Right.
instead of blaming the other one all the time, just say, right, hang on, you don't look really happy right now. Let's go find your brother. Let's sit together. Let's see what happened here. And actually, just a note here: the person that comes to you crying, 95% of the time is the criminal. So it's important to be, the person that is the mediator and go find out and sit between them and clarify what happened and brainstorm ideas to resolve these particular issues. And then you choose a mutually agreed solution, and then you try it and you tell them, let's try this here, and let's see if it's working, and I'm sure it's going to work now, and that kind of encouragement. So these are quite a lot of things that I would do, on a daily basis, weekly basis, or as things happen. There was one more question that I think we talked about, is if there's sometimes a need to seek professional help for sibling rivalry, and the answer is yes. If the rivalry is profound or deep and hard for the parents to deal with, I think it's important to seek help, because that's what the experts are there for, is to give help. So I think families should seek out help if they don't feel equipped to have the proper tools. I think the prevention and adjusting as things happen is the best thing to do. And one more thing is, a lot of people ask me, should we love our children equally? And I'm like, well, actually, think about it as a well of water, or the bank where you have money, a well of love. When your child number one needs love, you give love to that child, and while that's happening, your well is still filling up with love. And then your child number two suddenly at a different time might need a different kind of love, and then your well is full, and you can then help that child, and then so on and so forth. So it's equal because there's lots to give, but it's not always at the same time, because things happen through life and they don't always need the same thing at the same time. So same with amount of money. A lot of people ask me that, should we give the same amount of money? And I always answer that by saying, okay, you're going to buy soccer shoes for your son that plays soccer, and you're with your other son that also plays soccer. If son number two doesn't need soccer shoes, are you buying him some? And they say no. I said, well, here you got your answer. Again, it's according to the needs at the time. However, fairness, if you're going to Watson's and you're buying M&Ms for one and the other two are there, well, it's fair to buy a pack for each, or you share one pack between 3 kids. So should you give equal amounts of money? It depends. And then it's the same with time. My parents have 5 daughters, and I live in Hong Kong and everybody else live in Canada. And it's hard to share their time between all of us, but they've come to Hong Kong many times and they spend lots and lots of time with me. And they were there at the birth of Jean-Pierre, and they were there when we adopted the other children. And, they give time when we need it, and as we can and as they can. So equal time, equal money, equal love, it depends. And my answer is, you spread it as the needs happen or arise.
Okay, fair enough. I'll remember that. So when somebody asks me who's your favorite child, I can't say one, can I? I
Well,
say all of them.
that would be a faux pas. What we do in French. So what you could say though is, I love you because you're very funny,
Right.
and you don't say yes, and you don't answer that question.
Yeah.
You say why you love them, and you don't even have to discuss the others at that moment.
Okay, brilliant. We're now going to go on to our last segment, which is how to solve conflicts. So what are your recommendations for encouraging siblings to get along? Another
Yeah,
golden question.
yeah, okay. So lots and lots of possibilities of, I mean, I might repeat myself a little bit here, of putting them in situation where they need to share, where they need to take turn, where they need to listen to each other. If you have your rules organized and you go around the table, if you go outside as a group, you hold hands with one or two because you only have two hands, and then you might switch around. um, I think the major one for siblings when they're together is really to teach them about conflict resolution. That's probably the number one, especially 3 years old up, which is the age where they start to come at our school, and we can deal with conflicts like that, where you're in between two or three children and you say, hang on a minute, I can see there's a problem. What is the difficulty? You all want to be the fairy or the fireman in the role play area. You know, how can we do this here? It's the same between siblings as you would have a group of children.
Mm,
So what can we do? Brainstorm ideas. Well, we can buy new outfits. We can share it by putting a timer. We can
right.
put the outfit away for now. We can look for new outfits in the role play box, and then you discuss, and then they choose with you, and everybody has to agree on the solution. And then you say, right, well, let's try that. I'm sure it's going to work out because you guys have participated in this solution here. And
Mm,
if it doesn't work, you go back to, the board with all the ideas, and then you choose another one. But I would say really conflict resolution, and not to forget language of encouragement.
right.
Whatever you say, think about how you say it as a parent, so you're not creating that siblings rivalry. To say to a child, for example, you gain weight now, and so therefore we're going to give all your clothes to your baby brother. I mean,
Mm,
that's not very kind, and you might really create some resentment instead of kindness, really, about giving the clothes to the baby brother, right?
right.
That's just an example.
Okay. So should you prevent sibling conflict then, or is it a part of the growing up and development process in children? Because like sometimes you think, you know, it, are they okay? Like you don't want them to fight too much. Like where is that stopgap?
Yeah, good question. For me, prevention by putting rules together, and using your language of encouragement and is
Right.
very good. But of course, you can't prevent everything. And then if you have taught them some strategies, then you can back up a little bit and see if they're using the strategies. If they're not and they're killing each other, for me, it's always my limit is when, like I'm joking, I say, if there's blood, I'm coming, but it's not. If it gets, there's sometimes they can maybe play
Mm,
fight, and then eventually it gets overboard. That's when I would step in and say, hang on a minute, now we crossed the line. It was
right.
fun, but it's not anymore. So training through little, crisis or arguments that occur would be a way to go, and some prevention for sure, because you don't want to turn crazy and have siblings rivalry all day. So how can you prevent it? Is by using some of the strategies that I mentioned, and the
Right.
more you use them, the less you'll have it. Um, and dialoguing, saying, listen, guys, this is our family. We're not going anywhere. We're stuck. So
Yeah.
how can we work this out here? How
Yeah.
can we
Especially
cooperate?
especially these days, you're kind of stuck together indoors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, but is there a time like where one should seek professional help?
So my answer to that is yes. If parents are overwhelmed and they really don't think they can cope, or they feel that they don't have the tools, they've tried everything and
Mm-hmm.
still, everything that they can think of, and it's still not working, why not? Experts are there to help people. And if you do get help, there's nothing wrong with getting help. So
Right.
I would say yes. You're not alone also. That's what you need to think about. Everybody that has more than one child is going through the same things.
Mm-hmm. Crazy times. All right, so we've come to conclusion there for the interview. If anybody's got any questions, please do send them to us. We've still got a few more minutes. Otherwise, we're happy to take those questions offline and we can forward them on to Marie. But please do take a look at Marie's website. It's www.parentingdialogue.com. It's very useful. It's got an array of topics dealing with other things to do with power struggles, things parents can say to their children to encourage them, looking at language and household rules as well. You know, when Marie was talking about the rules that you should set up at home. So it covers everything there, very useful things there. And yeah, so we've come to an end there. So just a reminder, quick reminder, thank you, Marie, today. Thank you so much. Great to see you. We have got a lovely Facebook Live next week with Hong Kong Academy as well. So please tune in for that. That's next Wednesday. And we'll be looking at their homeschooling techniques there. And be sure to come to Little Steps, for it's a resource for families in Asia. We'll keep you in the know and on the go. And please, if you're interested in our newsletter, please click on the description there as well. So I'm going to sign off now. And thank you, Marie, once again.
Thank you for having me. Good luck, everybody. Reach out if you need support.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.